How's it going, everybody? Too Spooky here, and I just got done watching the live-action adaptation of my personal favorite series of all time, One Piece. Considering One Piece is my favorite, ever since this project was first announced a while back, I've been keeping my eye on its production with a hopeful, but heavily skeptical eye. So for anyone clicking on this video wondering if you should give it a watch or not, before we talk about anything else relating to it, I'm happy to say that this live action is, in fact, fantastic and definitely worth your time. Whether you're a seasoned One Piece veteran or wanting to dip your toe into the series for the very first time, this live action has something for everyone. If you want a little more information without any spoilers, be sure to stick around for a little longer, but for those wanting my in-depth opinion with spoilers included, stick around until the end. To start us off, we need to talk about the elephant in the room, being the stigma around live-action anime and manga in general. When pretty much anyone hears the phrase live-action anime and manga, I bet their mind instantly thinks of absolute train wrecks like Dragon Ball Evolution, or the more recent Netflix Death Note and Cowboy Bebop adaptations, which in return makes the average person believe that all anime and manga live actions are trash, and the medium simply can't work in live action. I find this stance very close-minded and ignorant, but where there is ignorance, there is a chance to learn. While it's certainly true that there are numerous god-awful live-action anime and manga adaptations, there are also tons of genuinely great adaptations too. But unfortunately, those token greats don't really get the recognition they deserve, and the medium in general still remains an absolute joke to the mainstream. Personally, seeing how much potential live-action anime and manga has, I started a series a while back called Manga vs. Movie, where we go over various live-action adaptations to find out which ones are actually great and which ones you should rightfully avoid. And while I haven't released one of these episodes in a while, I'm happy to say another installment will be happening very soon. My whole point with this tangent is that most people who are going to be reviewing the live-action One Piece adaptation will have very minimal experience with the medium in general, but me, on the other hand, through my extensive research of the live-action anime and manga adaptations that exist, I've essentially accidentally become somewhat of an expert on this particular subject. Like, you see this entire shelf of DVDs and Blu-rays right here? These are all live-action anime and manga adaptations. Every single one of them. And these are just some of the ones I was actually able to get my hands on. So when you inevitably watch other reviews and discuss opinions on the live-action One Piece, keep in mind that that individual likely doesn't have all 11 Kekko Kamen adaptations on DVD, like an absolute freak. I have suffered, so you guys don't have to. With that out of the way, let's start with the spoiler-free positives of the One Piece live action. First and foremost, we have to talk about the characters, because bringing the characters to life accurately is debatably the most important part of any adaptation. And other than one or two performances, every single actor in this adaptation absolutely knocks it out of the park. The casting director deserves a fucking award for bringing this lesser-known but all-star cast together. I was a little worried at first that the essences of the main crew wouldn't be adapted correctly, but I've never been happier to say I was worrying for nothing. Every member of the main cast feels like the Straw Hat crew I've grown to know and love. But the two standouts are for sure Inaki Godoy as Luffy and Emily Rudd as Nami. Inaki truly embodies Luffy, and it's evident that he played this role with a great level of authenticity and care to bring Luffy to life as accurately as possible with his sometimes carefree, sometimes serious attitude, while also putting his own spin on the character that fits so well. Whereas Emily Rudd brings Nami to life so one-to-one that it's almost crazy. Her cool, calm, and calculated personality brings the crew together early on, and she absolutely steals the scene whenever she's on screen. Makenyu as Zoro is definitely good. His fight choreography was incredible, even if they didn't utilize his third sword very often. And while he's pretty accurate to Zoro's personality, I would have liked it for him to be a little more serious from time to time. Instead, he mostly comes off as just annoyed and sarcastic. But still, a great performance nonetheless. Taz Skylar as Sanji was the one I was most concerned about, but I'm happy to say he also did a great job. He brings a much more happy-go-lucky side to Sanji as a whole that isn't present in his manga counterpart too often. But it's a welcome addition if you ask me. My only real issue with him was the accent at first. It reminded me a little too much of the 4Kids days.
Clavicle Schnitzel Kickoff!
But after a while it wasn't so bad, it actually got a lot better. And the fight choreography for Sanji is actually top tier as well. And unfortunately, Jacob Romero as Usopp is definitely the weakest link. But I don't really blame Jacob's performance. I think this is more of an issue with the directing and the writing and pacing of Usopp's introduction, as they really just don't give him a lot of time to shine compared to the rest of the Straw Hats when it comes to those emotional moments. If we do get a season 2, I'm hoping Jacob will be able to show us what he's really made of. But even if he's the weakest link by far, he still fits the bill as a less eccentric and loud, but passive version of Usopp. When he's given the opportunity to be comedic, he can actually be quite charismatic. Now, while the main cast itself is phenomenal, the true strength of this adaptation comes from how they adapted many of the side characters. You see, One Piece is known for its massive, never-ending cast, and because of that, it's inevitable for many of these characters to get pushed aside, remain undeveloped, or be completely forgotten. But in this adaptation, every major and minor side character is given their time to shine. And with the excellent care put into the casting, every single one of them comes off as memorable and unique, even the ones that everybody generally doesn't like. To illustrate what I mean, let's start with one of the series' most controversial characters, Koby. In the anime, Koby is without a doubt the single most annoying character in the series, and I would not be surprised or blame anyone who dropped the series early on simply because they couldn't stand his whining episode after episode. But in this adaptation, Koby is surprisingly top tier. Not only do they give him much more screen time and an overlapping arc with the main characters to really flesh him out, but Morgan Davies brings out Koby's main personality traits in a way that stays true to the character, while improving everything that was wrong with them in the main series, illustrating Koby's defeated, anxious, and unconfident personality without making them an absolute annoyance. It's honestly so impressive, I'm at a loss finding the right words to describe such a drastic improvement. Like, I used to hate Koby, and now I'm in love with this androgynous little guy. But this level of improvement with a great performance doesn't just sit with Koby, and instead, it extends to the vast majority of the supporting cast. To name a few, Buggy, Shanks, Mihawk, Zeph, and f***ing Helmeppo of all characters steal the show every time they're on screen. Like, I could never imagine a world where I enjoy watching Helmeppo, but here we are. The costume design, set design, and the world that is presented to us also brings the series' vast world to life in a believable and impressive way. One Piece is often hailed as one of the best examples of great world building in fiction, and bringing that world to life in live action is certainly a daunting task. But each set piece is brought to life in a vibrant, yet accurate way compared to the source material. The Baratier, for instance, is actually transformed in a way that keeps its look from the source material, but builds upon those foundations to bring it to life in a new and exciting way, making the restaurant much bigger and more populated to make it feel like a real fancy 5-star restaurant that is always popping, or making Kaya's mansion feel like a never-ending example of vast riches and pure loneliness. Each scene is filled with this same care and attention to detail. And finally, when it comes to the story, here's where things get interesting. Because with any live-action adaptation, some liberties need to be taken to adapt it in a way that stays true to the source material, while still delivering its own unique perspective and changes. With the East Blue Saga, they're essentially adapting almost 100 chapters into only 8 episodes, each an hour long, which is no easy task. While there are some changes I'm not super happy with in regards to the story that we'll talk about in the spoiler section, for the most part things are kept accurate to the source material while also finding time to add things that weren't present originally. The main example I'll provide is that Garp, Koby, and Helmeppo are given their own storyline alongside the main crew that is generally only hinted at in the original manga, but by adding those aspects to this adaptation, it brings forth a completely new storyline that coincides with the main cast, and brings a fresh new idea to the story in an interesting manner that doesn't take away from the source material, but adds to it instead. And outside of that, they generally take all of the themes that are present within the East Blue Saga, and implements them in a way that gets those themes across while still remaining faithful to the source material. So by this point, if you've still been unsure if you should give it a watch, I hope I've been able to convince you that it is worth your time, and I implore you to give it a chance. The first 2 episodes alone really impressed me. But now, to talk about the things that are not so great, we're going to have to go into spoiler territory, so here is your spoiler warning before we continue. My main issues with this adaptation are pretty much exclusive to the changes in the story, but let it be known that none of these changes are that detrimental to one's enjoyment. Honestly, just minor nitpicks. The first order of business would be that Goldie Roger didn't say the famous line where he left his treasure in one piece. Such a wasted opportunity. Secondly would be how they nerfed Luffy quite a bit in this adaptation. A lot of the story changes result in areas where the crew are forced to work as a team, which generally creates more tension for the viewer, which on paper sounds like a good idea. However, in the process of doing this, Luffy ends up seeming significantly weaker compared to his manga counterpart. An example of exactly what I mean comes as soon as episode 2, with Buggy's introduction. In this adaptation, Buggy gets a big advantage with a form of sleeping gas that allows him to capture the crew and put them in dangerous predicaments, like attempting to drown Luffy in a tank of seawater, forcing Zoro and Nami to help free Luffy and take down Buggy in a creative way by trapping his body parts in various containers. This isn't inherently a bad thing, and does create a unique feeling of payoff through quick thinking and creativity. But one of the things I liked most about the East Blue Saga in the manga was the fact that Luffy was just so much stronger than everyone he was pitted up against. As in the manga, Luffy just sends Buggy flying with his Gum Gum powers almost immediately, making it such a one-sided fight. I wouldn't really mind this change in the live action if it didn't happen with every villain without fail throughout the adaptation. For instance, Arlong is brought into the plot much earlier than the manga, and is actually pursuing the Straw Hats himself. So when he eventually catches up with them at the Baratie, he defeats Luffy with minimal effort right away. Which is odd because although Arlong is obviously insanely strong, his blunt punches should theoretically do almost nothing to Luffy since he's made of rubber. Yet Arlong takes him down with just punches and doesn't use his razor-sharp teeth in any way, generally just making Luffy seem much weaker than he realistically should be at this point, and making his rubber powers only present and active like half of the time. Like I said, this is just a minor criticism, but it certainly took me out of the scenes quite a few times. Garp's pursuit of Luffy being a focal point in this arc also only partially worked for me personally. I know not everyone's going to agree with me on this, but Garp interacting with Luffy this early on just feels a little out of place, and I almost would have liked it more if Garp's inclusion to this part of the story focused more on giving Kobe and Helmeppo training and their own separate enemies to face as newly recruited Marines, rather than just chasing Luffy the entire time when he's technically not even a wanted man yet. Like, Garp sending Mihawk after Luffy, for instance, just feels so odd. Garp doesn't really seem like the kind of character who would rely on warlords to get his work done, and while Mihawk's introduction to the live action is pretty incredible, I much prefer his manga introduction where he chased after Krieg all the way from the Grand Line to the East Blue just because they woke him up from a nap. And then all of those events with Zoro and Mihawk happened because Mihawk just happened to be there. I think this idea with Garp in general was a welcome change, but it needed a few more tweaks to get it right for me. And generally speaking, the middle portion of these episodes just feels a little bit too bloated. Like during the Syrup Village portion of the series, that easily could have been adapted in only a single episode instead of 2. Like, all you would need to do is cut out Zoro's entire backstory with the well scenes, and introduce his backstory during his fight with Mihawk, where it would hold more weight and relevance. Take out Luffy eating the poison and passing out, and Kobe and Helmeppo arriving on the island to essentially do nothing. And what feels very strung out could become a much more concise and enjoyable experience. And finally, my last major criticism would be the fishmen, and I guarantee you I'm not going to be alone on this. When I first saw them, I thought the makeup and character design was easily the weakest part of this entire adaptation. But as the episodes went by, I certainly got used to it after a while, and they actually came off pretty intimidating. However, I think they still could have done a lot better, especially with the budget that they had for this entire series. I'm not sure what the costume and makeup department was like, but if they brought on some seasoned practical effects artists who worked on various horror movies, I think they could have made the fishmen 10 times more horrific. Like, straight up, they should have just made them look like hideous monsters. Especially because this adaptation featured a lot more realistic violence than I expected. Like, Zoro fucking cuts a guy in half within the first 20 minutes and just carries his body around. That's metal as hell. But that aside, with all of that violence already included, imagine what they could have done with the fishmen to make them seem like that much more of a terrifying threat with the inclusion of some real body horror. A big wasted opportunity to say the least. So in short, some of these story changes really worked and others fell a bit flat. But overall, this adaptation was incredible, and I really hope we get a second season. Because while I doubt it's possible for them to adapt all of One Piece in live action, I would at least like to see Alabasta's story given the same treatment as this. I'm so happy that this project happened at all. Like, even if it ended up being terrible, I would have just been happy that they gave it a shot. But this project was given so much love, care, and hard work from everyone involved to create such an enjoyable experience. And I have no doubt that this will finally be the moment that the general opinion of live-action adaptations change within the mainstream. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a general resurgence of competent adaptations coming out within the next few years. Maybe in time we can also do a video going over everything that is different from the source material along with the little Easter eggs sprinkled throughout, because I would love to talk about this adaptation again. But for now, this is my initial review of the One Piece live action, and overall I'm giving it a 7.5 out of 10. It is definitely worth the watch if you are a fan of One Piece, and if you're looking to get into the series for the first time, this is a great place to start, if the sheer size of the series is a bit intimidating. Let me know what you thought of the live-action One Piece in the comments down below, and make sure to drop a like and subscribe with those notifications on for more videos coming soon. Like I said, I've got another Manga vs. Movie video in the works, which should be coming pretty soon. So if you have any interest in live-action anime and manga whatsoever, wanting to know which ones are good and which ones you should absolutely avoid, be sure to stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching. All of my social media is in the description below, and I'll see you all soon with a new video.
Why do you hate me so much? I only ever wanted us. And why does this make you so sad? I thought this was what you wanted.